Another game that is drawing a lot of attention right now is Black Myth Wukong. And Black Myth Wukong is another Souls-like type game where you're basically a Monkey King. But there's a lot of criticism going around about this game, and we're going to check it out and see what we think of it.
This IGN article is just a collection of
It's some Big Dan Gaming, by the way.
I mean, is this
video
really
in the
worth
description
writing
below.
an article about? There's no way that this is.
If it's Souls-like, it's not for me. I feel that.
Smoking gun.
I tried playing Lies of P, and the game is a cool idea, but the Souls-like thing just gets me.
Unbelievable.
I must be a lizard brain because it's too hard for me.
Black Myth Wukong is an upcoming action RPG that recently grabbed my attention with its stunning gameplay reveals.
Yeah.
Developed by a Chinese
does look
company
beautiful,
called
100%.
Gamescience, the game is set to release next week. But one thing I kept hearing about is that the developers who made this game were sexist. This was repeated over and over again by mainstream sources like IGN, Gamespot, and The Guardian.
It should be noted that allegations against Gamescience have surfaced over the years via...
Can we talk for a second? GameSpot, IGN, Gamescience, all those things. Can we talk about how game journalism is not what it used to be? Right, my dream as a kid was to write for for Game Informer magazine. RIP, that studio is now closed down. In case you did not know, Game Informer has gone belly up. But that was one of my dreams, is to write for a video game magazine. And I feel like the games journalist company like that are just grasping at straws. Because there are so many YouTubers that are doing videos and content creators that are doing videos on games and reviews and all of that, that the days of listening to like IGN or Game Informer or I just said IGN, GameSpot, things like that are kind of out the window because so many content creators are getting their attention, like Asmongold or something like that, right? Well, I feel like one way, and again, he might talk about this, and I don't know if it's truly going with this, because you look at the top of here, it says, failing games journalists created a false narrative to try to destroy this game. Which kind of made me start thinking, all of these game journalist companies, what's one way anybody can stay relevant in this market? Create controversy, create drama. If they can create something that people talk about, they create a narrative. They create attention. I've also under the impression that, I can't remember what this is from, but there's no such thing as bad publicity. That's gotta be from a movie. And I can't remember. If you guys know what it is, let me know. But I can't remember where that's from. But there's no such thing as bad publicity. I honestly think all this attention that Black Myth Wukong is getting actually might be good for the game, because it's drawing a lot more people to it to check it out and to see, what is that? Like, what is happening? What are they talking about? So now they're seeing the game. People might not be interested in before. Now they're interested in it because of this controversy.
Reports of the developer
from a ton of
fostering
stuff?
a
Okay,
sexist culture and work
now it's for
environment,
me.
with numerous
Copyright.
women in the Chinese gaming community highlighting these problems within the studio. Gamescience has repeatedly refused to comment on the allegations.
But I never really saw any proof
Okay,
of this
let's find out what
supposed
happened.
sexism. It just kept getting repeated over and over again, like, oh yeah, that game Black Myth Wukong, that's made by the sexist Chinese game studio. So now that Black Myth Wukong
But what have
is
they
about
done?
to release in a few days,
I
and
hope he
I'm planning on
explains
playing
this.
the game, I decided to look into these claims of
Yeah.
sexism and find out what's all this then. In this video, we're going to explore how mainstream games
The
media
game looks beautiful,
tried to
though. Look at that.
slander game science.
I mean,
and Black
Elden
Myth Wukong,
Elden
and how the
Ring-esque
reporting has
game.
completely blown up in their faces. So without further ado, let's
It's definitely an
buckle up,
Elden
grab
Ring-esque
some iced
game.
coffee, and dive into the controversy surrounding Black Myth Wukong.
Let's do it.
So the nexus point for all these allegations of sexism, or ground zero if you will, is an IGN article published last November. The article was written by Rebecca Valentine.
Black Myth Wukong developers' history of sexism is complicating its journey to the West. Indie developer Gamescience's global fame is forcing it to confront its own sexism and that of the Chinese tech industry. What do we think is, like if you could guess, right? What do we think this game is being sexist about? Okay? Because I feel like when you have the character creation or character input into a game, now everybody to each their own, right? But if I'm going to play a girl, I want to play a attractive, well-endowed girl, if you know what I'm saying, right? If I'm going to play a male antagonist, I want to play a freaking ripped, jacked, like just Chris Hemsworth, from Love and Thunder, Thor: Love and Thunder. You know, he's chained up and he's naked. Wait, excuse me. But like just a jack dude that just rips through people, right? It's like, what? I'm interested to see what's happening here.
IGN article published last November. The article was written by Rebecca Valentine, entitled How Black Myth Wukong's Developers' History of Sexism is Complicating Its Journey to the West. So let's briefly walk through the main claims of the article and see if there's anything substantive. For an indie studio that has only released mobile titles within the country, this widespread acclaim over
so this could be the first major game?
Unprecedented feat, particularly for a game that has not been released yet.
Right.
But beneath the luster of this Souls-like is a studio plagued by claims of sexism.
Real quick, can we all agree that Souls-like is being overplayed now? Everybody's trying to capitalize on Elden Ring, and it's 2-3 years too late. Okay? The wave has already hit. We've already got it. We've already got our Elden Ring fix. Now, every single game that comes out does not need to be Souls-like. We have those games. Every game doesn't need to be like that now. And I feel like every game is starting to be a Souls-like game. And it's kind of, I don't want to say underwhelming, but I'm like, oh, great. Here comes another game that's Souls-like. Just like every other game out in the market right now. So for me, I'm kind of over it.
Several posts have surfaced from Chinese social media site Weibo, written by individuals from the studio, that contain multiple references to genitalia and innuendos. So basically, the developers have been making Coomer posts on social media? Okay. Anything else? There's also a content warning. This article contains a number of quotes from Game Science that contain graphics, content, and remarks.
Every game should be like BG3.
Really bad,
Correct, you're not wrong.
The main villain of the article is Game Science's co-founder, G.
Yeah, I do agree that not necessarily the D&D style where it's turn-based strategy like that, but the depth of BG3 is what I'm going to agree with you on, okay? Because not everybody likes the turn-based, you have to roll for attacks and things like that. Like, it took me a while, honestly. It took me a while to get behind the rolling of the dice for attacks. And I'm like, how is this guy paralyzed, prone on the ground, in a bed of ice, and I still miss my attack? No. Impossible. Right? So the whole dice throwing thing, it's taken me a while to be like, it is what it is. But the BG3 aspect, Baldur's Gate 3, where there's so many storylines. It's so in-depth. If you kill somebody in Act 1, that could mess up a storyline in Act 3. That's amazing. And the fact that you have the ability to attack anybody that you want. That part of BG3, the depthness of it, is great. And I will 100% give that to them in that regard.
Framing of this article, which claims a culture of ingrained sexism at Game Science, what do you think Ji Feng has done? A. Assaulted and harassed his female employees.
This is funny.
B. Refused to hire women, saying they're inferior to men. Or C. Made off-color jokes and analogies on social media. If you chose C, you are correct. In 2007, Ji Feng penned a lengthy article titled, Who Has Murdered Our Game?, where he delved into the difficulties of game development in China. Feng compared failed projects to stillborn babies, given that many games had to cease development despite being worked on for a year or so. He then brought up...
I agree that's too far. Like, you don't need to make that. You don't need to make that comment.
Is the pregnancy too short? Is the baby lacking nutrition? Are the doctors in charge of C-sections lowly skilled? Why can't we produce a healthy child? This is the first example of quote-unquote
that's weird
in the article.
Like, who makes those types of comments, honestly?
By the way, if you're enjoying this video and want to see more coverage of RPGs,
I'm gonna sleep.
Be sure to hit that like button.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna sleep just fine. Like, after he talks about this, like after reading those like posts or whatever he was talking about, I'm gonna sleep just fine. I'm not gonna remember it. I'm gonna move on. But just hearing it, it's like, you don't need to make those. Like, if you're trying to crack a joke, it's not really funny. Like, your sense of humor is very dry, it seems like, right? So those comments right now, already I'm starting to be like, okay, I see it, but let's see where the story goes.
Evidence is a 2020 social media post made by Ji Fang after their pre-alpha gameplay trailer racked up over 2 million views. He makes a sort of poem filled with innuendos and talks about how he wants to expand the studio to improve Black Myth Wukong. The one phrase that's
way back in 2007, it was a different world back then, to be honest. Oh, 100% agree with you. Yeah, you could make some of those comments and people are like,
but interestingly,
oh, okay. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, back in 2007, I'm going to say this one thing. I may get canceled, and I'm sorry. And I love all of you. I just want you to know that. But back in 2007, we as a human race didn't get our feelings hurt by bad comments or weird comments or whatever. We're just like, oh, that's stupid. And then we moved on. We didn't have to be like, oh my gosh, that ruined my day. I'm going to go tell everybody about it. No, you didn't care. You had life happening. You had things going on that you're like, you know what? Okay, this person's an idiot. I'm just not going to listen to them. I'm just going to scroll right past it. But no, nowadays, everybody has to get their feelings hurt and everybody has to comment on it and tell the world about it.
Accuracy of this translation is in dispute. If you see IGN's original tweet linking this article, there is a community note stating, the sexist quotes shown in the article are poorly translated. Accurate translations show these statements being vulgar, but definitely not sexist. The first link is a YouTube video from Asmongold's Clips editor who breaks down the situation.
This game journalist, either by sheer incompetence or malice, translated these posts in the most uncharitable way possible. And this is nothing compared to the most egregious mistranslation after one of the game company founders.
Where's the date on this? Like, when did this happen? 8/20. That's military time.
2020.
Oh, in 2020. Okay.
The lackluster trailer of Black Myth Wukong just released. In reality, the actual translation completely changes the meaning of what he was saying. Not satisfied, I went back checking if anyone called this out when it happened, and they did.
I might ask that. That's fair.
Pointing out that there is some debate about the accuracy of these translations. There are some Chinese Twitter users who are saying that the translations are accurate, and other people that are claiming that it's not. I can't speak Mandarin, so I can't really verify this for myself, but regardless, even if these translations are accurate, are these kinds of posts really worth writing a whole hit piece about?
No.
The article also mentioned some risque...
But, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, these happened back, this one, a year later in 2015, so 9-10 years ago, okay? Plus, 2007 was 17 years ago, okay? They're trying to pull up things that people said 10 plus years ago when Crit and Chat said that was a completely different time in history. People could say different things and people weren't offended by it. Like, it wasn't a bad thing. But, like I said earlier at the beginning of this video, if you remember, that these game journalists are a dying breed. Because they're a dying breed, they have to find something to make themselves relevant again. Oh, hey, let's look at this post from over 10 years ago. They said something naughty. Now this game is doomed because of what they said, 17 years ago, even though this game was not even a figment in their imagination. And they could be a completely different person now. Maybe that person who made that comment was a 19-year-old punk just starting at the company and just, come on. When you guys are teenagers, imagine all the stuff that you said, right? I'm not saying this person was a teenager at the time, but obviously they were 17 years younger. Imagine the things that you were saying 17 years ago. You regret probably a lot of it. I'm sure they might regret that post. It happened, but we move on. But again, these game journalist companies are trying to dig up everything they can just to make themselves relevant again.
Recruitment posters circulating in the HR office around 2015, which, interestingly, IGN says they have seen.
Don't you dare say 2015 was 10 years ago.
They don't show them in the article.
That's true.
They posted receipts for other things.
Not
and if they've seen proof of this, why not publish it? So basically, the source is, trust me, bro. Also, 2015 was almost 10 years ago. If Game Science doesn't have these kinds of posters in their offices today, isn't that a sign of progress? Mm-hmm. It really seems like IGN is grasping at straws to villainize this game studio. But then we have the creme de la creme, the Snake Lady. More recently, a technical artist from Game Science, Dewey, suggested in a post on Zhihu, the Chinese equivalent of Quora, that a female character from Black Myth Wukong, known as the Snake Spirit, can be matched to by looking at her more. Bro,
what?
Ain't no way. No, this can't be real.
What?
This has to be an Onion article, right? There's no way.
This isn't Stellar Blade. What's going on here?
This is the smoking gun of game science's sexism.
They got to bring up anything they can. This makes no sense.
But if I cover the bottom half with my hand, it's still possible to jerk off. Dude, this is unbelievable.
I can't.
Unbelievable. The rest of the article goes on to talk about the feminist movement in China and how people are mean on the internet. You can Google it if you want to read the whole article for yourself. But to me, this narrative that game science is sexist because of some of these social media posts is completely ludicrous.
Yeah.
And it
I agree with you.
devalues actual instances of sexism that have taken place in the gaming industry. For instance, some of the stuff that happened at Blizzard a few years ago. You know, things like harassment in the workplace or female employees taking their own lives because they're being bullied at work. You know, real discriminatory practices and bad behaviors. This IGN article is just a collection of Coomer posts and memes. I mean, is this really worth writing an article about?
It is when you're a dying breed.
One of the things about this whole narrative is how other media outlets have spread and perpetuated it. If you Google Black Myth Wukong sexism, you'll find dozens of articles covering this story. But rather than adding anything new into the mix,
the game looks beautiful though. Look at it. I mean, take out the fact that obviously we're learning about these stupid companies that want to say or want to try to bring up dirt from many years ago just to seem relevant again. But look at the game. Like Black Myth Wukong looks actually pretty good. Granted, it's a Souls-like game, so I'm probably not going to play it because I suck at those games. But it looks beautiful.
IGN article from last year. Remember
that's
that
ridiculous.
Gamespot clip
they got this guy in the street to talk about it, just saying,
"Hey,
you're right. Man, drama's drama, right?"
Game science. But if you go to the Guardian article,
I think a lot of people are talking about this right
now.
The
original IGN article from last year, which the Guardian reporter questioned game science about during a gameplay demo this summer. I am unfortunately met with very little honest communication when I bring up a report from IGN, which related alleged sexist comments from multiple developers at Game Science
over 10 years
as
ago,
as those in leadership roles. I present Ted with the opportunity to address the claims of misogynistic posts and whether he feels they represent Game Science's values. Instead, I'm shut down with...
I mean, granted, I'll say right now that I don't agree with the comments that were made. I don't agree with the comments that were made. But I don't think that those comments were made at specific people, right? It's not like they were making the comments directed at certain targets. It was more just using it as I want to say as an example or kind of referencing it in a weird way, right? As in a bad negative way. I still don't agree with it, but at the same time, I feel like people are kind of grasping at straws here because they're not directed at somebody. It was more just a weird, stupid comment that was said.
With a hasty no comment from their UK PR representative, and then, after a long wait, given a longer statement of no comment via Ted's translator. IGN has also repeatedly demanded a response from Game Science regarding their fabricated narrative of sexism. I had the opportunity to see Black Myth Wukong at Summer Game Fest, though my appointment was admittedly a little strange. I was told as a part of my invitation that Game Science would have a statement related to the reports of sexism. I arrived at the appointment and saw the game as planned, but when I asked for the promised statement, I was told by a PR representative, Game Science is focused on the demo during play days and will only answer questions related to gameplay. This
so trying to hide from it now?
Game Science must respond to this bullshit narrative that has been perpetuated by IGN and these other games media outlets is completely ludicrous. And to their credit, Game Science has consistently not engaged with this narrative, continuing to stress how they are working on the game and trying to make the best game possible.
You know what I like? This is going to be a hot take, right? I actually like that Game Science isn't talking to them about it, addressing the issue, because they know that it's a ridiculous claim. So why? Who are these companies like IGN or whatever Who are these companies coming at them with a claim about something ridiculous? Why do they need to explain themselves? Why do they need to justify themselves? They don't have to. So the fact that they're, I don't even want to use the words dodging it, because if you're dodging something, that kind of makes it seem like you're guilty. But the fact that they're not addressing it, that they're not talking about it, that they're not having to comment on it, good. Good for them. They shouldn't have to justify themselves for a ridiculous comment, right? If somebody was to come at me and say that, oh, hey, you ate 17 ice cream sandwiches last night, do I have to defend my honor and say, no, I didn't? It was actually 11. I made that up. But still, you get what I'm saying. Do I have to defend it, or can I just be like, cool, whatever, and just go on my separate way? So the fact that Game Science isn't addressing it, good for them, honestly. Because when it's ridiculous claims that have no merit of anything, don't address it, right? It's not your fault that these companies are trying to bring something up, trying to make something out of nothing.
So at the end of the day, what has been the result of all this? Well, currently, Black
But don't
Myth
lie, that
Wukong
was the truth.
is the
I mean,
most
it could have been
wishlist
17.
game
I lost
on
count.
Steam and is in the top 5 best-selling games, which is kind of wild for pre-orders.
Okay.
This game will most likely be a smash hit,
Oh, 100%.
despite the best efforts of the media.
Looks beautiful,
who desperately
Souls-like,
wants to hate
100%.
this game and its developer. Games journalists, on the other hand, have taken a huge hit with their already paper-thin credibility.
Yeah.
GameSpot's initial preview of Black Myth Wukong nearly has 90% dislikes, with a lot of the comments tearing them to shreds.
Yeah.
IGN got community noted on their initial tweet of the article and turned off the replies. And the authors of that article have
You're
made
dead.
their Twitter
You're
accounts
done.
private. I think this is a great example of how out of touch the mainstream games media is.
Yeah.
People just
Yep.
want to play fun video games
Yep.
at the end of the day.
Yep.
So instead of trying to manufacture political narratives to drag a game studio who you don't like, how about just focus on reviews and guides?
I love it. I'm not gonna say anything else. I love it. Big Dan Gaming. That's a great comment you made there. I feel like these game journalists have gotten away from just reviewing the game. Good, bad, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what's good things in it, what's bad things in it. They've gotten away from just reviewing the game, giving us features, talking about the game, to now creating drama. But you know what? You know what the funny thing is? What gets the most clicks? What gets the most likes, watches, and all that? Drama. Controversy. So of course, to make... You know what? I've already said it, but you know what I was going to say.
And the cherry on top of this whole fiasco is that IGN's final review of Black Myth Wukong doesn't mention any of this at all.
Of course not.
They don't talk about sexism
Nope,
or
of course
false
not.
allegations.
Because they know
just
they're in the
focus on
wrong.
Gameplay
Of course
and
not.
gave the game an 8 out of 10. Maybe if they had just done that to begin with, none of this would be happening. So
Yeah.
there you have it. How the mainstream games media tried and failed to slander
Wow.
and destroy Black Myth Wukong.
But-
if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more RPG videos and reviews. Big shout out to all the channel.
I like it.
members.
I'm going to go ahead and link it in the comments below. He brought up a lot of good examples, a lot of good things to think about when it comes to what our market is doing. And I say market because of the gaming market. Okay? This isn't just happening to Black Myth Wukong, right? This is, I'm going to put the here you go. You guys can watch the video, give a like, give a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But what happened to games journalists just reviewing games? Game journalists just review a game? Wow. None of controversy anywhere in the review. I get right. But so here's the thing, is I feel like this is happening all over. Okay. What's happening to Black Myth Wukong is just kind of a centerpiece right now. But it happens to all games. I don't want to go out on a limb here and say it's kind of happening to Star Wars Outlaws a little bit. But to be fair, Ubisoft is kind of crapping the bed and messing up themselves. So a lot of the negative publicity around Star Wars Outlaws is merited, and they've kind of brought it on themselves. But in general, I feel like a lot of these companies do try to fabricate a narrative, fabricate a story to get people talking, to get people referencing their videos, to get people engaged in their content. Because much like Game Informer magazine, these big companies are starting to dry up. They're starting to slow down because content creators, when games bring out content, they fly out YouTubers to play their games, try out their games, write their own review for the game. Sometimes those reviews are even better than IGN, GameSpot, etc. So these big companies are starting to dry up. So what do they got to do? They got to create controversy. But let me know what you think. Are you going to play Black Myth Wukong? Have you heard about this drama? What's been on your mind about it? Let's just have a conversation. There are no wrong opinions. Let's just talk about it, right? We can have a little conversation. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and we will see you in the next one.